I knew I shouldn't have been watching this show in the first place, but my sneaky child self loved to watch Ren and Stimpy whenever I could, and that day Nickelodeon aired an episode called Fire Dogs. At first it was business as usual. I had no problem with the slapstick violence and gross out humor that the show was already known for, but then we suddenly cut to this image, and I nearly lost my mind. I was the victim of a gross up close up. Also known as a gross up or a grotesque, these extra detailed still images were a running joke of the series. But there was something about this one, that pallor, the wild eyes, the weird smile, that rattled my jumpy child mind. And since then, many other shows have ambushed viewers with these nasty portraits, so I thought we could look at their place in cartoon history and see how they may have drifted into horror territory. The Ren and Stimpy show pioneered the gross-up in the early 90s. The show debuted in 1991 as one of the first Nickelodeon cartoons, alongside Rugrats and Doug. These other shows were decidedly tame, so if Ren and Stimpy needed to stand out, it didn't have to try that hard. But try hard it did. The disturbing brainchild of animator John K., Ren and Stimpy was the edgiest of the original Nicktoons with its dark, gross-out humor. And as much as I liked the cartoon, I can remember several moments where it probably went too far. Like bees flying into Ren's mouth to sting him on the tongue, or that time Ren pulled the nerves out of his own gums. There was a lot of oral horror for a kid's show. I'm sure it inspired a lot of childhood nightmares. This is your reminder to brush, floss, and schedule a cleaning with your dentist. But John K. didn't terrify all those young viewers by himself. The show's co-creator Bob Camp explained the Tropes' backstory in a quick exchange with Dante Luna. If we had something really disgusting we wanted to show, or something that we thought was really funny up close, because most stuff in the world, if you look at it up close, it's pretty disgusting, we got the idea to do paintings, really close-up paintings, and we sort of painted them in the style of Golden Books. They already created their backgrounds in that style, so the paintings were just an extension of what the artists could already do. And there's sort of a meta joke here, that so much extra time and talent would go into making something so ugly. Ren and Stimpy's last episode aired in 1996, but the gross-ups lived on, and they've been used as a frequent sight gag in cartoons like SpongeBob SquarePants.
Look at it! Look at it!
This might be due, at least in part, to artist Vincent Paul Waller working on both shows, and given how long SpongeBob has endured compared to Ren and Stimpy, I imagine it was the first time many viewers ever saw a gross-up, and some of those portraits are pretty gnarly. While it's not as crude or infamous as Ren and Stimpy ever was, SpongeBob does have its fair share of gross-out humor. I still remember an episode called Nasty Patty, where SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs think they've killed a health inspector and try to dispose of his body. While this episode didn't shock me like Fire Dogs, I was really surprised by such a morbid plot, and the burial scene stood out with starker color and lighting than the rest of the show. And we're also treated to a few gross-ups of the corpse. Since then, other animators have thrown the gross-up close-up into their own shows, and Cartoon Network's The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack has a full gallery of its own unsettling images. And more recently, Smiling Friends has rejoiced in mixing animation styles, and the animators have slipped in a few gross-ups of their own. Cutting to these freakish, eerily still pictures can make whatever we're looking at seem out of place in the candy-colored world of a cartoon. If Courage the Cowardly Dog taught us anything, it's that mixing mediums is a great way to evoke the uncanny valley, even if you're already working with an odd and unusual character. Over the years, these gross-ups made their way into countless impressionable imaginations, and it's easy to believe that they've had a lasting effect. And they may have influenced the fiction written by a generation raised on these freaky cartoons. If you've ever read any of the classic creepypastas, you've probably come across tales of lost episodes in old cartoon shows, and you've inevitably encountered the description of a cartoon character with hyper-realistic eyes. Well, there's a theory floating around online that this hyper-realism trope may have been influenced by the gross-up, and one of the earliest uses of this trope was a SpongeBob fan story called Red Mist. While this story is not exactly revered for its masterful prose, it does describe characters staring with hyper-realistic eyes in an effort to unsettle the reader. When the author of Red Mist included this hyper-realism, they may have imagined the extra detailed grotesque portraits that were often featured on the show. But again, that's just a theory. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little memory with you. I started this channel just a few months ago to talk about horror in all its forms, and that includes cartoon shows from the 90s. I'm honestly surprised that it's taken me this long to say anything about an old creepypasta like Red Mist, but so much has been said already. I don't want to just add to the mountain of harsh criticism without anything else to say. But if you're interested in creepypastas, scary stories, horror movies, or weird history, I've got plenty more on the way. I've just been putting these videos out as ideas take shape, and I plan to upload more frequently this year. I'm a writer by trade, and sometimes I get an idea that I know I don't want to make into an article or blog, and these videos have become a whole new creative outlet for those ideas. So if you enjoyed this one, I hope you'll stay tuned and see what else I have coming up soon. Bye for now.